Is this thing on? Hey, welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for companies, and I also teach at Podcast Engineering School. Every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We do interviews with podcast producers and engineers, and we also do daily goody episodes like this one, where I'm going to talk to you about 9 or 10 of the daily goody blog posts that I write every week. Well, I write about 3 times a week. Actually, in the past couple months, I stopped writing them. I can't think of what to write about in my daily goodies. I've done, I think, 680 daily goodies over a period of about 2.5 years. And these are the short little blog posts. I call them a daily goody. I used to do it daily. In fact, when I first started, I literally did it daily. I was putting one out 7 days a week. And then I went to 5 days a week. And then for the last year or so, I've been at 3 times a week. But now I don't really know what to write about. I mean, I've written so many. I mean, I can always write more about gear and plugins, but I don't really want. I mean, the Daily Goody was more of an all-around audio education little short blog post to help podcasters get up to speed and learn audio production, at a more professional level. And so it's not just about gear and plugins. I mean, I love gear and plugins, but I don't want to put a blog post out every day just promoting someone else's gear and plugins. I mean, I do plenty of that, don't get me wrong, but all right. Well, anyway, you could sign up to receive the daily goodies in your email. You can get a weekly roundup, or you can get them as they're published. And the next semester of Podcast Engineering School, you know when it starts? Guess what day? September 14th, 2021. September 14th, 2021, we start Podcast Engineering School. Find more information on the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. And I'm going to overview, like I said, 9 daily goodies in a second, but I really want to thank Focusrite for being a sponsor of the show. This is the very last episode that I'm going to talk about Focusrite, and I must say that Focusrite is a great company, and Dan Hughley is an amazing human being. So I thank Focusrite. I thank Dan for sponsoring the show for the last 2 years, sporadically, but we planned on doing it that way. We did it like every third month or something. But anyway, you probably know the Focusrite series of the Scarlett series of audio interfaces, which is now in its 3rd generation. The Scarlett series is the world's best-selling USB interface. And you could choose between 6 different models. And really what it comes down to is how many inputs you need. I mean, that's one of the main factors in deciding which Focusrite interface to buy. You can get, with 1 input, 2 inputs, 4 inputs, 8 inputs, all that stuff. Really good sound quality, works with whatever software you're already using, works with any type of XLR microphone. They even have a loopback, like a little app you run on the computer where you can record Skype or Zoom calls directly into your software with no workarounds. It's very handy. And of course, the air feature, the air button. Have you tried that? Have you tried pressing that button that says air? Well, it adds brightness and presence. It's really pretty cool. It doesn't work on every voice, but sometimes just adding a little more of that clarity, right? The brightness or the presence really helps make someone's voice sound much better. So anyway, thanks again to Focusrite. Thanks to Dan Hughley. Let's get into the daily goodies. The first one is voice recorder plugin for WordPress. Have you heard about this? I mean, I'm sure there's like a million plugins for WordPress, but this plugin is called Voice Recorder Plugin, and what it does is it allows your fans or your listeners to basically write on your website, like click a button and basically record like a voice message for you. So I know a lot of podcasters do this. They want to allow their listeners to basically send in voicemail, and instead of using an actual phone number, you just get one of these plugins for if you have a WordPress website, or there's other ways to embed it on other websites as well. I mean, maybe not this particular plugin, but there are many voice recorder plugins. So I don't know. I found this one. I think a bunch of people use it, and the link to it is in the Daily Goody itself. So by the way, I forgot to mention, in the show notes of this episode, I link to every single daily goodie that I'm going to talk about. So if you want to see the actual post that I'm referring to, just go to the show notes and click through, and you'll see the actual post. So, and then in the post it links out to the actual voice recorder plugin, so you could check it out for yourself. Apparently there's a one-time payment of $29 and all that. But anyway, I know a lot of podcasters find that very handy. There was one, I forget the name of it. Oh, SpeakPipe. I think I had SpeakPipe on my website for a while, but I think I got rid of it because literally no one ever sent me a message through SpeakPipe. And I had it on my website and all my episodes for like, I don't even know, 2 or 3 years at least. And literally I did not receive one voicemail unless people did record voicemails, and I just never got them. All right, next daily goodie. Be aware. Compression and EQ, etc., can sometimes exacerbate sibilance. So, yeah, sometimes when you start to process some audio, like in this case, a person's voice, right, for podcasting, like maybe in their raw audio, there is no sibilance, really. It sounds fine. But then when you start using compressors and EQs, the sibilance might become exacerbated a little bit, and then it might become a little harsh, and then you might need to remove it. So obviously that's where you use a de-esser. Oftentimes on certain clients, I'll use multiple de-essers, and one good thing to do with de-essers is to use them sort of at the end of your plugin chain. So if you are using compression or a compressor plugin, an EQ plugin, and a saturation plugin, at the very end, you can put your de-esser plugin and then sort of adjust that last, because you can get everything sounding good, but if there's a little sibilance you want to tame, then you can put the de-esser at the end and tame the sibilance. Although for some people, I actually run a de-esser at the beginning of the plugin chain and at the end of the plugin chain. So sometimes you can, gain stage it properly. All right, everyone go ahead and drink. That's the code word there, gain stage. But yeah, so just be aware when you start processing audio, you might exacerbate sibilance that wasn't there before. And then, it's not hard to remove. But don't forget, with de-essers, you got to be careful, because if you overdo it, it just sounds really, really bad. You can just destroy the clarity and the intelligibility with a de-esser if you're not careful. Okay, next daily goodie. Editing tip. Use short fades for transparency when applicable. So yeah, using short fades when you're editing. And so I'm just going to talk in general about this. I mean, in the PES program, we really get into editing a lot deeper, but the idea of using fades is pretty simple. So let's say you're going to cut out a section of audio. Well, the edges of that section that you cut out, come together, and sometimes there can be like an audible, like a click or a pop, or sometimes it's just, on the left side of your edit, there's a little background noise, and on the right side of your edit, there's no background noise. So the transition from background noise to no background noise can sometimes sound unnatural or maybe even a bit jarring. So what you can do is just fade out or fade in. Like you can just fade these edit points. And I'm talking about quick fades. I'm talking about like 1/10 of a second or 1/4 of a second. And again, I know I'm speaking in general, but there are a lot of individual situations where this might help you. So what I'm saying here is just keep in mind, you can do quick little fades to smoothen out these transitions. It makes a difference. You can even use short fades when you're like cutting out an like even if you try, like when someone says the dreaded and dumb, and if you try and cut out that it's very difficult, because then the and will sound very weird. It'll be like, and it'll literally sound like that. So if you ever do want to cut off the off of and you can cut off the and then quickly fade out the end of the D, the D. You can work on quickly fading that out to make it sound much smoother and more natural. So anyway, quick little fades are very handy, and you can become really expert at it, and it really helps to make edits transparent. Okay, next daily goodie. Stereo imaging enhancers. Okay, stereo imaging enhancers. Now, I'll be the first to admit, in podcast production, there's like 1 in 1,000 episodes you might want to use a stereo imaging enhancer. But it's good to know what they are, and it's good to use them if you want to, especially for instance, music, like, the music that you buy for the intro of your podcast, the stock, music. Sometimes you might want to not only EQ that, usually you don't want to compress that because usually they're already mastered and compressed and limited a lot. But sometimes you might want to adjust the EQ to better suit your podcast. And other times you might want to adjust the stereo width. You might want to make it wider or even narrower sometimes. You might want to narrow it down if it's really too wide. So adjusting the stereo image, enhancing the stereo image, making it wider or making it more narrow or mono. It's one of those things that every now and then you might need or you might want to do. Certainly don't need to do it. This is not a production process where you should go out immediately and find a plugin that enhances the stereo images. You don't have to do that, but so there's one in Ozone. So the Izotope Ozone, which is their mastering suite, that has an imager, and Waves makes a stereo imager, and also in a lot of the Plugin Alliance plugins that use the TMT technology, they do throw in a stereo image enhancer, meaning you can make it wider or narrower. So it's kind of handy. Again, not something you'll need all the time, but it's just interesting to know. And I guess I should say why you might want to adjust the stereo image of, let's say, music. It's mostly music, obviously. You would never use a stereo image enhancer on a person's voice. You could, but there's no need for that. If you want to make a person's voice seem a little bit wider and fuller, that's when you can use a little bit of the chorus effect. So there's a type of effect called chorus. So if you add a little chorus, it kind of widens. It can, depending on how you use it, it can widen out the voice a little bit, very subtly, and make it sound more thicker and fuller. But anyway, yeah, and again, the links to all these Daily Goodie posts will be in the show notes here. Okay, next Daily Goodie. Oh, the PES monthly Q&A meeting for students and alumni. So, we're not going to spend any time on this, but as part of enrolling in PES and taking the whole course, the full course, I do monthly Q&A meetings for students and alumni, and it's really cool because, even if you went through the PES course 4 years ago, you can join the Q&A every month and just hang out and chat and ask questions. It's great. So, all right, next Daily Goodie. My website is loading, and I don't know why today my website is going really, really slow. Well, I think WordPress says there's an update, but I'm always worried about updating WordPress. Not worried, but I've literally probably 10 times in my life, I've updated a WordPress plugin, and then literally my site disappeared. And then I have to scramble, oh my God, my website's down. So it's difficult. All right, next Daily Goodie is actually the Pro Headphone Buyer's Guide. This one's from 2020, and it's created by SonarWorks, which is a really cool company. Anyway, there's a headphone buyer's guide. I'm sure they'll make one for 2021. And again, this is just a resource. A lot of different headphones out there, a lot of different price points. From my experience, $100 pair of headphones is usually pretty good. And, pretty much anyone can get away with a $100 pair of headphones. But if you want to, spend $200 or $300 or $500, you can get really good headphones. All right, so the buyer's guide for that is in there. or in the link to it is in the Daily Goody post. All right, the next post is actually an episode of the show, my Goody Bag, episode 212. Yeah, that was a boiling episode, wasn't it? 212 boiling episode. Nothing. Crickets. Nobody. All right. Anyway, next. All right, the next Daily Goody is, we want to see your equipment setup. Comment with a link to a picture. Yeah, so I put up this Daily Goody and I was like, hey guys, show us your equipment setup. And I in the post I put a image of my equipment setup, which is my iMac Pro computer. The mic I have set up in this picture is the Rode NT1. That's not what I'm using right now. Right now, guess what mic I'm using? Well, anyway, I'll just tell you. It's a Shure SM7B that I'm using right now. I don't often use this mic, but I do like to try different mics and setups, and I do like to change it up. Variety is the spice of microphones. And then you could see my studio monitors there, also my channel strip and my sound devices Mix Pre 6, which, believe it or not, a lot of this has changed. My monitors are still the same, the Neumann KH120As, but I'm not using the sound devices Mix Pre 6 as my interface anymore because I bought an Apollo X4, which, maybe pretty soon I should make an episode about the new equipment I just bought and the new microphone I just bought. You know what? I'm going to do that. Okay. Anyway, a couple people did comment on this post with links to their setups. So it's pretty interesting to see like what other podcasters are doing, like what does their battle station look like and how is their setup? And it's just interesting to see. So if you want to share a picture of your setup, go ahead and comment on that post. The link is in the show notes. Okay, next. Reaper's play frequency selection. Okay, so Reaper, of course, the DAW, the amazing DAW Reaper, it has a play frequency button, apparently. So one of the PES graduates, Michael Jerry, also known as Michael 320, he sent me a note one day because he likes Reaper, and he at times he'll research these unique features of Reaper that I don't know about. I mean, there's like a bazillion features in DAWs. Like I never claim that, I know every functionality of every software and every plugin and every microphone. And like, I never claim that, right? No one can. So anyway, he found this feature in Reaper, which if you select a specific area in Reaper and instead of choosing the normal play button, if you select the play frequency button, it'll play the audio, but only in the frequency range that is selected. So if you just want to hear the highs or the mids or anything, it'll just play that frequency range. And so Michael found it useful for identifying like specific noises or thuds or background noise, for instance. And it can be handy, right? It's just one of those things that it's a cool feature to know about, because if you ever want to just hear a certain frequency range, it's very easy to do in Reaper. So, and if you have any other awesome little features of Reaper that you like, always feel free to send it to me, and I can, post it, or I can make a Daily Goody about it. All right, and this is the last Daily Goody we're going to cover in this episode, and it is titled, AirPods are okay, but they don't give professional audio quality. Yeah, AirPods are okay, but they don't give professional audio quality, and mostly because they don't even capture the whole frequency spectrum. Because of their sample rate, which is usually around, I think, 20 kilohertz, AirPods don't capture frequencies above like 10 kilohertz, or maybe older AirPods don't capture above 7 kilohertz. Now look, I'm not an AirPods person. I might be wrong about these. I might be slightly off with these numbers, okay? But I did research it a little while ago. This Daily Goodies from March 17th. And I'm not an Apple guy, really. I don't have AirPods. If I might be a little bit off with the exact numbers here, but it is true that they do not capture the whole frequency range of human hearing, and they cut off a lot of the high frequencies. So sometimes if you're producing audio that were recorded through AirPods, someone was using AirPods when they were a guest on a podcast, let's say, sometimes it's difficult to process that because I always feel like reaching for an EQ and boosting the high frequencies to get some more clarity. But if you're recorded with AirPods, there's no information in the high frequencies. Oh, I have to cough. So you can't just grab an EQ and add back the high frequencies because they literally don't exist. The AirPods didn't capture that. So anyway, I just want you all to know that AirPods are great. They're wonderful. They're the best thing since sliced bread, especially the people who are AirPods fanboys. They just love them. And it's great. I get it. They're handy, they're wonderful, they're beautiful, and that's fine. But all I'm saying is that when it comes to producing professional audio, AirPods don't give professional audio. They give decent audio for normal people, regular people who aren't producing podcasts, right? But again, I've produced plenty of podcast episodes where the guest was using AirPods, and yes, you can make it work. The trick is and it's the same thing with phone call audio. Like if someone's literally connecting via a phone call, it's the same thing. It's always a balance of the high mid frequency range and the low mid frequency range. You kind of have to balance those. You balance the clarity with the clarity in the high mids with the fullness / muddiness in the low mids. That's the trick with EQing audio that, like AirPods audio, that doesn't include a lot of the high frequency information. So, all right. Well, that's the last Daily Goody. And I just want to say that I appreciate you listening. And if you ever have questions about audio, feel free to email me. I know in previous episodes, I said, hey, if you guys just want to reach out and say hi, please do. Just email me. And a lot of you did. So thank you. It's great to hear from you. It just makes me feel better that there's some dialogue back and forth instead of me just having a monologue. And the other thing is I hope you liked the previous episode of the show, which was a really cool one where we talked about basically a new technology that's not very well known. But we talked to Vic and Mike from VZR. That was a really cool episode. And as was Martin Gonzalez, episode 221. That was amazing. He's an audio engineer at Pushkin. And also, episode 219 was with Jason Gambrell, the technical director for Pushkin, who works on Revisionist History and Against the Rules and Broken Record. And Martin Gonzalez and Jason Gambrell they're really producing audio for one of the premier podcast networks / creators. So that was really good. So I hope you enjoyed all those. More interviews to come. I do want to mention I have a smaller course that I never mention. I literally forget. That's like I'm the idiot who I'll come up with a product and I'll tweet about it for like a day or two, and then like 9 months goes by and I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should mention that I have a freaking course. So anyway, the smaller course that I offer is called Getting New Clients at Higher Rates. And it's for podcast editors and podcast producers who are independent. You want to get new clients and you want to get clients at higher rates. That's what I've been doing for years. So I go through the whole blueprint of how to get new clients at higher rates. It's awesome. If you want to, and it's an on-demand course too. So you just pay and then you can watch all the videos and all that. There's a Slack group that you get into as well. Anyway, it's pretty cool. If you want to build a podcast production business and make really good money. Because the thing is with podcast editing and podcast production, you can have a bunch of clients and you can work 40 hours a week and still not make enough, as much money as you'd want to. So you have to be strategic about it. You have to, pretty much engineer your business so that it's set up and poised to earn you enough money to live You should make as much money as you want to make, within reason. But you shouldn't work cheap. You should never work cheap. In fact, if you really know what you're doing, you should be the expensive option. Like me. Like in my production, I'm the expensive option. I don't know many people in the world who charge more for podcast production than I do. I'm sure they exist, but the point is that I'm not going to, edit episodes for $30 an episode. I can't. So I have to charge between $400 and $600 or $800, something, right? So anyway, that's what that whole smaller course is about, getting new clients at higher rates. All right, I'll stop rambling. Thanks, everybody. Hope you learned a lot today. Reach out to me if you need any help, and I will catch you next episode. All right, later.